I live in the heart of Silicon Valley, somewhere between the calm serenity of lovely vistas and the fierce competition of digital innovation, the birthplace of the now familiar marvels of our age. And yet, my story begins in an unfamiliar past, for I come from far away, distant places, beyond the reach of the most powerful search engines, between the lines of bas reliefs clicked like by history's thumb. I've traveled long to the beat of ancient drums, am as strong as mythic warriors and immortal hymns, ecstatic with the fine old wine of sonnets, and sublime as the fire that never dies in my burning heart. And on the first day of Nowruz, with the first rays of the goddess Mehr, I am born anew with the light on the mountain summits.
Iranian Studies at Stanford was created at the time when Hamid Moghadam joined the Stanford board. And when Dean Saller came to Stanford, Hamid and Christina Moghadam were dedicated to the idea that Stanford should have an Iranian Studies program. And Dean Saller was dedicated to the idea that Stanford should have strong presence in areas like Iran, Islam, and Asian subcontinent. In that fortuitous confluence, Stanford's Iranian Studies was launched. At that time, I was already at Stanford, working at Hoover most of the time, and they appointed me as the first director of the program. One of the visions of Hamid in the beginning, if they want to learn about Iran, there is a place they can go that they can be sure they will get serious, rigorous, scholarly view of what is happening in the country. We have the good fortune of having Condi Rice here, who's very influential. Secretary Schultz has attended many of our conferences. One of the more memorable things that has ever happened to me at Stanford was in that first conference when Simina Behbahani read a paper in Persian, and George Schultz was in the audience. And at the end of the talk, he walked over, and I was translating for Ms. Behbahani. And he said to her, "I don't speak a word of Persian, but your delivery and the sincerity of your delivery was so powerful that it brought tears to my eyes."
از ایران آمدم، از راه دور، از کشوری که چند هزار سال تاریخ مدون دارد و چندین قرن اسطوره و فرهنگ.
Simina Behbahani, clearly the most influential woman poet of her generation, clearly a symbol of women's rights under the Islamic Republic.
یک لحظه مسائل فنی زیاد شد خانم ممکنه
میخواین همونجا وایسا؟
نه همینجا شما نه اینو ببریم بالاتر.
یه عکسی از ما همینجوری بگیریم.
For a quarter century now, her poetry has been a source of hope and aesthetic innovation, and I am particularly proud that she was chosen as the first recipient of the Beta Prize.
When I heard Hamid and Christina Moghadam started the Iranian Studies program at Stanford, I thought that there would be a good idea that other people, other philanthropists in the area to come and add to this endowment. And by doing that, since I always had the passion for art and music and poetry, I thought it would be a great idea to add that section to the Iranian Studies.
Many are those that are far from home, and yet their hearts beat with its memory. Many are those indebted to that fire, beholden and yet hopeful, confident of its endurance. Relying on their goodwill, dependent on their help, I've built this edifice brick after brick, one at a time, and by so doing have now raised a monument, inured to wind and rain and fearful calamities.
One day I was having lunch with Rita Dayabari, and she asked me, why don't you offer courses in language and literature? She said she was willing to help. That allowed us to begin hiring a visiting professor in Persian letters. The first person we invited was Dick Davis, who was a great translator of Shahnameh Ferdowsi, is a great translator of Hafiz.
یاری اندر کس نمی بینم یاران را چه شد I see no love in anyone. Where then have all the lovers gone? And when did all our friendship end? And what's become of every friend?
I heard through friends that Professor Beyzai is unhappy in Iran. I contacted them. I said, would you be interested in coming to Stanford and teach some courses on theater?
جناب آقای بیزایی.
سال گذشته درست در 30مین سال پاکسازیم از دانشگاه تهران به برکت انقلاب فرهنگی من شغل ربوده شده ام را موقتاً در مطالعات ایران شناسی دانشگاه استنفورد بازیافتم. 30 سال کشید تا من که روی دست فرهنگ دوگانه ایران مانده ام دست کم به شغل خاندان پدرم معلمی برگردم.
After he began teaching, in some of the conversations I had with him, we decided that it might be a good idea to try to stage some of the plays that he has never been able to stage. Fortunately, his wife, Ms. Shamsai, is a trained and accomplished actress, was here. We began to set up workshops where these actors and actresses could be trained. In terms of music, the good fortune of sponsoring a series of workshops by Maestro Shajarian.
برای بنده واقعا مایه افتخاری که استاد شجریان دعوت ما رو پذیرفتند و دانشگاه استنفورد رو بهش این افتخار رو دادن که مهماندار ایشون باشیم و بگیم که استاد شجریان هم در این دانشگاه درس دادن. خیلی متشکرم.
بر آتش تو نشستیم و دود شوق برآمد تو ساعتی ننشستی که آتشی بنشانی این باز اینجوری باشه که آتشی بنشانی اینجوری نیست.
One of the other people that we invited early on was Mohseni Namjoon. He's a phenomenon in Iranian music. He is clearly a trailblazer in the sense of the underground fusion music. I had the very good fortune of being a very close friend with Dr. Joseph Parvizi, who's one of the shining stars of neuroscience in the world, is at Stanford. And we were talking about all the things that neuroscience has begun to teach us about some of the fundamental questions of philosophy, ethics, and epistemology. Dr. Puya Azadi and a friend of his approached me and said that they want to study the problems of Iran in a serious scholarly manner. Hamid and Christina Moghadam agreed to fund that program. Our publications we have just put online, Iran Vision 2040, has gotten an enormous amount of readership in the US, in Iran, policymakers in both places. Stanford is now probably the top research university in the world. And if it has a program, it needs a library that is commensurate with it. I think we now have gone about ameliorating some of this is by creating a remarkable collection of archival material that has been donated to Stanford University. The two biggest ones are in the field of literature by Hushangi Gulshiri, whose entire private collection paper is now here. I can say with certainty I know of no university outside Iran that has such a complete collection of the private papers of a major writer. And then, secondly, we got last year the private papers, the documents, the collection of Ardeshir Zahedi, Iran's ambassador, Iran's foreign minister, and the Shah's son-in-law. And the collection includes some of the private papers of his father, General Zahedi. We came across this remarkable piece of paper that is a handwritten command of the father on August 19, when he's taking over after overthrowing Mossadegh, and all his private papers, letters from US presidents, senators, congressmen, all of these are now at Stanford. A very prominent filmmaker. He has made some documentaries about court events on very important historical moments in Iran's 20th century, 21st century history. And in preparation of those films, he has done tens of hours of films from Shirin Ebadi, the Nobel Prize winner, to Simin Behbahani, to Saedi. Very little of this has ever been seen anywhere.
70 سال این قل جا ماندم که از کف نرود 1.70 متر گورم به خاک وطن.
And now, I stand at the crossroads of history, at the heart of the great battle between light and darkness, reason and ignorance, time and oblivion, on the unholy path of dogmatic would-be conquerors. And in the emptiness and absurdity of their slogans, howls of death unto this or that one, I have lost myself at times, inexorably, have sustained wounds from every onslaught, inevitably, and yet here I am, still longing for the sonnet of the morning, still thinking of the story of peace.
Loneliness is my destiny. Thank you.
If Iran had a top-notch university, and Iran was a democratic society, an Iranian studies program in that country would do, I think, virtually everything we're trying to do. Forget about what the regimes, past or present, say. If you do a rigorous model, how many people can be fed? Are we using our land efficiently? How are we going to solve our water problem? What is Iran's future in gas and oil in 30 years, in the optimal sense and in the worst case scenario? If Iran had a democratic university, that's what they would study. We are doing exactly that here.
I have come from far away, distant places, but with the new Nowruz I blossom anew in this corner of the world, so that this flame may become revived, so that this culture may be sustained. See me rise, not accidental, but eternal, according to the traditions, the old stories. And lest the phoenix be mocked as mere myth, see me rise again from the ashes of each land. For I come to add another season to the story of that ancient, immemorial cedar. I stretch out new branches and fresh leaves again of a mighty tree that will always grow. For I am the culture of Iran. Iran.